What's up, guys? We're back for part 2 on the review of the Vector Optics Matiz 3-9x50 second focal plane scope with their new fiber optic red dot in the center. So I've got this mounted up to a 22-250 with a falling block design. It's a single shot. So we're going to see how this scope performs on 50 and 100 yards in the indoor range, and seeing how it does on a little bit higher powered rifle like this instead of, say, something like an air gun or a 22 or whatever. So first thing is obviously take the caps off. We're going to turn the illumination on and see how this does. Okay, so we've got our target all the way at the back of our indoor range, and this is the 100 yards. This is the max that it goes. And that little shiny thing that you see above it is my optics chart with my letters on it. And it is actually quite hard to see at 100 yards. I did laminate it, so that does make it a little bit more difficult just because there's a reflection on it, but it was a little bit hard to see any kind of lettering and wording. Now, the reflection that you see at the top of the screen is actually from my scope cam, because it does get a little bit of light in from the back side and causes a little bit of distortion on the camera. So whenever you see a really good shot with no light up there, it's because I've put my hand over the back of that. They really need to make a lens thing like you do in a camera, where you're taking like time lapse, where you can close a shutter so you don't get light that's back in. So that right there is my very first shot, and I had a hard time seeing where I shot. So I took a couple shots here. I couldn't even tell if I was on the paper. So I decided to bring it back in. But here you can see, as it started to come back in, you can start to see it coming to focus again. And you can at least read those top two lines, maybe the third line down. And I'll keep it focused on this. So this, I believe this is 35 yards. And I brought it all the way in here just to say, okay, I've got to at least figure out where it's on paper first before I push it back out to 50 and 100. Alright, so next I turned the illumination on, and we're just trying to figure out, I went ahead and put some of those splatter target stickers on just to see if I could see my hole a little bit better, which did not really help at 100 yards, so I had to move it in closer. And I shot a few, and I finally had to move it into 35 yards there. I can actually finally see where I'm kind of at. But I'm using the digital zoom in my Scopemate S28 4K, and I found out that if the scope is zoomed all the way in and then you use the digital zoom, it gets really bad. So what I did here is I actually put this back out to 3 power on the scope. So you can see it lets a lot more light in, and then I used the zoom, and then I could actually see a fair amount better. Now you'll notice that fiber optic dot in the center is really, really bright. And that is only like on 3 power on that little dot. It goes all the way up to 11. So 11 just overwhelms you. It's just so, so bright. I actually turned this down, I think just to 1 or 2, just because it's so, so bright. But here I'm finally starting to get on target. I think I went up through about 20 rounds. So moving the target back in, so this is my end results that I was able to come up with. So out at 50 yards, that lower left hand is about as good as I could get. The reticle on this is fairly chunky, and so with this 22 sized hole, it does make it a little bit hard to find where you're hitting on paper. So somebody that's probably better at me could probably use this out or past 100 yards, but I would say 100 yards with the size of crosshairs in the middle is probably the best you'll want to stretch this out to. But if you guys want to know more about this Vector Optics Matiz 3-9x50, I would recommend going and checking out Vector Optics website. I do have a discount code in the description below if you guys want to get a little bit of discount. They do make really good optics. This I would consider as a hunting budget option for most people, but I really do like the illumination. It is super, super bright, and it makes it possible for you to use illumination like this in broad daylight, whereas most illumination is really just good for dusk conditions, and then the rest of the time it doesn't get used at all. But that is it for this video. I would love for you guys to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for all of the videos that I drop. Thanks again, guys.